Preparing.
Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube. It says we're out there.
It's setting it up. Hold on. It's redirecting. Oh, that is cool.
Are we out there?
We're on YouTube.
Oh, we're on YouTube. All right. We got to post this on our Twitter then. What's up, everybody? We're live on YouTube for the first live episode of the Chalk Talk podcast. Please bear with us a moment while we get our technical aspects going here.
Okay, I guess I just hit record then so we can save the audio
hit
file
record
later.
on this computer. Yeah, and I could trim it later.
All right, I'm gonna.
Oh, Megan says we're out there. All right, hey everybody, what's going on?
Welcome.
I gotta promo this on our Twitter account then.
Do it. Why continue to read the agenda?
So Burke just told everybody live on YouTube that he's unprepared for this podcast.
Just like I've been unprepared for my picks.
Just like he's been unprepared for all of his picks on Twitter for the last month. Bear with us one moment, folks, where we set up our episode for today. I want to promo this on Twitter. Thank you all for tuning in. Hold on, I got to get to, oh, hey, look at that. So I got to copy this link then. I'm going to post it on Twitter. There we are. Hey, we're on a little delay. That's cool. I like that.
Maybe it'll bleep us out if we throw some bad words in there.
All right, so I tweeted it. We're out there live. We'll give everybody a minute to hop on, see who wants to join, and then we can start our episode. You all right with that?
Yeah.
All right, man. Cool. Well, this is cool. Thank you for everybody that's on YouTube joining in and watching us via Zoom. Now that we figured this out, we're gonna try to do a lot more of these, which is awesome. Can you see who's watching us or no?
That's what I'm trying to look at right now.
All right. So for some reason, Burke's in charge of the technicals on this. I guarantee you he has no idea what he's doing, but that's all right.
I got promoted.
Burke got promoted to podcast host. He wasn't working out as pick specialist, so we promoted him to podcast host.
Oh, there's the live chat. We've got Megan Warner saying this is great.
What's up, Megan Warner? Thanks for joining in. What part of the country are you from, Megan Warner? Always like to know where our viewers are from. I'm just kidding. That's my wife.
we got 4 people watching right now.
We got 4 viewers. Oh, that's fantastic. Fantastic. Well, look, man, I say we get started with tonight's episode. We've held the people on the edge of their seat long enough. What do you say?
Let's rock and roll. I'm ready to
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us live on YouTube. We're going to get started and welcome everybody to episode 12. Welcome to episode 12 of the Chalk Talk podcast. I am your host, Ken Doolittle, joined as always by my sad resident Packers fan, Michael Burke. We are certainly going to have a lot to talk about tonight, my friend. What a divisional weekend it was. We're going to talk about this, but that was probably the best weekend of football I have ever watched. Start to finish, Saturday to Sunday, phenomenal stuff. I want to get into all of that with you, but we have to start somewhere else tonight, somewhere dear and near to both of your heart and my heart. Big Papi in the Baseball Hall of Fame. What say you?
I'm happy. I know there's going to be a lot of naysayers out there because he was tied to the PED scandal that rocked the late 90s, early 2000s. But I have some opinions on that as well. I still think Bonds and Clemens are worthy if they should be in the Hall of Fame. They're 2 of the best to ever do it. But I'm really happy for David Ortiz. It's sad that he has to go in alone this year, but 500 home runs. He was the main face in lifting the curse of the Bambino off the Red Sox with that historic 2004 ALCS run, coming back from 3 games to none, and then continuing that momentum to get their first World Series since 1918, and then a part of 2 other World Series winning teams as well in Boston. When they had the bombing at the Boston Marathon, he became the face of that city and gave the people hope when times were tough and really rallied the community together. And he was just a great leader, great person, and obviously one of the best baseball players to ever live. And I'm really happy for him.
Yeah, man. And I mean, it's totally deserved. I agree that like the shit on the Baseball Hall of Fame is insane that like Bonds and Clemens aren't in there. To me, I think they should both be in the hall, especially Barry Bonds. Like the Hall of Fame is a museum, right? It's a museum of the sport. And to everybody that watches the sport and grew up with the sport, Barry Bonds is one of the, if not the key figure that like we grew up watching, hitting home runs and playing the game. And he had something like 400 home runs before he was even, tested and proven to be on PEDs. And honestly, I mean, who cares, right? I think steroids saved baseball. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but like it made it pretty interesting for, about a decade. And that just has to be part of the history. You can't write it out of the history books just because you didn't want it to happen. I think it was okay. And I think that those people should be in there. And Ortiz, PEDs aside, he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because of what you said, right? Like I remember, however old we were what, 12 years old at the time, right?
Yeah, 12, 13, whatever it was.
Watching that, 3-0 comeback with the Red Sox in Fenway. And it felt like every night Ortiz was the center of that team, right? Every night it was the 8th inning, it was the 9th inning, it was the 14th inning. And he was the guy hitting the single, hitting the double. I remember every night at that point, I was watching with our other mutual friend, Ross. I was over at his house a lot because we were both Red Sox fans too. And we watched every game of that series. And it was way past our bedtime at the time because those games went to like 1 or 2 a.m. And just like, some crazy memories. And I was lucky enough to go see in his last season. Me and my wife went out to Fenway and I got to see him hit a home run against the Yankees. And that was awesome. And just his whole career, he definitely deserves to be in there. I'm definitely glad he was. Let's start with some one-word answers. Bonds, Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. So congratulations to Big Papi, David Ortiz. Well deserved for all that he did. Let's hope Bonds and everybody else gets in there soon. Let's move on to the NFL divisional weekend. Couple questions for you. We're going to start with some one-word answers. I liked how this went last week with Lair. So you ready? One-word answers. I'm going to give my answer after you do. I got 4 questions tonight. Number 1, best NFL weekend ever? Question mark?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Second question. Interesting one. Worst play call of the weekend?
Packers.
Okay.
Just all of it.
How about this one? Tannehill. Can we infer what I'm saying on that?
I can infer. I'm going to let you expand upon it later.
All right, we'll circle back there. Third question. What does Tom Brady do next year?
Returns.
Win. Fourth question. This one's right up your alley, brother. It's a simple one-word question for a one-word answer. Rodgers? I don't like that face. He's giving me the shrug shoulders. He doesn't even have a word to give this one. That's a 0-word answer.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, my one-word answer for Rodgers, I don't know that I can give a one-word answer, but I'm going to say sayonara, because the Packers need to part ways with Aaron Rodgers. And that's my hot take. And that's where we're going to start today. I have been itching to talk with you about this all week, because last week I was the only person seemingly in the world that was on the San Francisco 49ers +6, also to win the game outright. It seemed like everything was stacked against them, right? They're going into freezing cold Lambeau on a Saturday night. The Packers have 2 weeks of rest. Rodgers is the 1 seed again. Jimmy G is kind of banged up. The Niners kind of snuck their way into the playoffs. And man, they won the game outright. They were never down by more than 7. But at the same time, almost instantly, it's 7-0 Packers. They go down the field in about 80 yards in about 3 minutes. They're almost perfect on offense. Somebody on the Niners, I forget who it was, fumbles the ball around midfield. The Packers have the ball back up 7, looking like they're going to go up 14-0 and never turn back. And from that point on, the Packers do not score another touchdown in the game. They actually only put on one more field goal. Niners win 13-10. I'm going to step back for a second. I have claimed my win for the week. We need to have a little funeral for you, my friend. How are you feeling as a resident Packers fan going into this offseason about this game?
I'm kind of shocked. They had what I felt was a revamped defense. They were the only component of that team that showed up on Saturday night. Defense played outstanding, giving up only 13 points in a playoff game with basically limited. Debo didn't have that big of a game. Kittle had some catches, but they didn't dominate. It was just cold and just hard-nosed football. Defense definitely stepped up to play. A couple big turnovers there. I am shocked by the way the offense performed. Even in cold conditions, you really don't see the Packers offense kind of stumble the way they did. Obviously, out of the gate, they had that first drive that they took it to the house for a score. Thought this game was going to be in the bag, no problem. And then they just forget that they're playing football for 3 quarters on offense. Can't get anything rolling. And I think that wasn't even the worst part of their game on Saturday night. It had to be the god awful special teams.
Of course.
You had a blocked field goal at the end of the first half. And with 5 minutes to go, you have ultimately the biggest momentum swing of the entire game, which they couldn't recover from. Was it took the punter forever to get that kickoff. And of course it gets blocked, return for the touchdown, game's tied. Lambeau fans are shocked, and Green Bay could never recover. And as soon as they had to give the ball away, when they had a chance to basically take it down the field, kill as much time as possible, and go for a game-winning field goal, they couldn't even do that. Some questionable decision-making from Rodgers, even though he was like 22 or 23 or 30 for 220, but no touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Adams had his catches. I think he was close to 100 yards, 9 for 91, I think was the final stat line, but not much from anybody else. And it's a shame because I really, really like their chances this year. And now there's a lot of question marks going into next year with where they're at with the salary cap, because they owe Rodgers a ton of money. There's suitors for Rodgers across the league. So I'm really interested to see where the Packers organization goes. They've already made this statement this week that the entire front office and coaching staff is like all hands on deck to keep Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. But really, I think Aaron holds all the cards here, and I'm kind of interested to see where this goes. I mean, there's been other offseason questions in the past with Green Bay and Rodgers. Obviously, with the hiring of Matt LaFleur, they didn't really get eye to eye after year one. They draft Jordan Love in the first round where they didn't give him any weapons, but Rodgers still stuck around. I always felt he was going to stick around. This is a little bit different situation because they had the components, but a lot of guys are in free agency this year, and I don't know how many of them they bring back. And obviously Rodgers, I think, is the biggest part of that. But if he's not sold on coming back, it's going to be very tough to keep a lot of these guys on board. Probably wherever Rodgers goes, I'm assuming Devontae is going to try and follow him too, because he's in a free agent year too. So it could be a big shakeup in Green Bay coming in 2022-23 season.
Well, here's the thing, right? Like you said, Rodgers didn't play bad, but he didn't play how he needed to play and how he was expected to play as the 1 seed in Lambeau. They did not score an offensive touchdown after the first drive of the game, and that's inexcusable for him, right? So the fact that he didn't play bad, that's not enough for the great quarterbacks. You know, Rodgers, Brady, Mahomes, Josh Allen. We're going to talk about that matchup later, but what a showdown. I would much rather have Mahomes or Allen than I would Aaron Rodgers right now. And this is, coming from the Packers organization, this is like character aside. Like, do you want the sideshow of him that's all of a sudden become a thing, coupled with the fact that, like, there's probably 5 quarterbacks in the league that I would want ahead of Aaron Rodgers right now. Everybody's scared to play him. I don't think Lambeau holds the same weight that it did 10 years ago in the playoffs. People are going in there and winning. And Rodgers is 500 in his playoff career, right? So if you're the Packers, you drafted Jordan Love, and you've got this star. No arguing he's a star. He's probably going to win the MVP. He had a great year. He's one of the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the league, no doubt. But you have this quarterback who has proved himself as kind of like a sideshow diva, who shows up and plays very well during the regular season, and then doesn't really show up in the playoffs. I'm sorry to say, he just doesn't show up in the playoffs.
Yeah, he's been incredibly average.
He's been incredibly average. That's what it is. Do you want that? Or do you want the guy that you drafted a couple years ago to replace him in Jordan Love? And Rodgers is going to say, "Oh, you didn't draft me a team. Draft me some more players." That's BS. That's nonsense, man. They're the 1 seed this year. They're
They're
a
the one.
fine team. Like they
They've been
certainly
the
have enough weapons for him.
they've been the 1 seed the last 2 years.
That's right.
They got one of the best offensive lines in football. They got one of the
Correct.
best 1-2 running back tandems in football. AJ Dillon is a fantastic backup to
Well, that's
Aaron
it, man.
Jones.
Like, what more could you ask for? You got Devontae Adams,
You
who
got
is
the
up
best
there
wide
with
receiver
Nuke.
in the game. Your tight ends perform well. Your secondary
Sure.
receivers are solid. Not great. They're solid. That's probably the weakest component. You got all the defense was fantastic. You got all the pieces to win a title. You just got to now step up and do it. And the last several years, he hasn't been able to do it.
Like at the end of the day, they gave up 13 points. That's enough to win, right? On your home
field. They gave up 0
seed,
offensive touchdowns.
They didn't give up a single offensive touchdown.
2 field goals.
That should be enough to win. Number one. Number two, like you said, you have Devontae Adams, who is up there with, Nuke Hopkins and Tyreek Hill as the best wideouts in the league. That's enough. Number two, you have, like you said, Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. That's a great 1-2 punch at running back, right? And the other thing is, you say the other wideouts aren't good enough. I'm going to echo that and agree. But guess what? Rodgers was in charge of that. He decided to bring Randall Cobb back, right? That's his guy. That's the equivalent of like LeBron James bringing J.R. Smith with him to the Cavs, right? And if you're going to say, hey, Randall Cobb's my guy, then why are you only throwing one completion to a non-Devontae Adams wide receiver for a chance to go to the NFC Championship game at home, right? That's my thing. Rodgers just hasn't done what he needed to. And I was texting, I don't know if I was texting with you specifically, but I was texting with a couple of our other friends that before the game, and I was at my brother-in-law's house and we were talking about this, and it's funny that it reared its head. I was saying repeatedly, the Packers are 32nd in DVOA on special teams, dead last. And there's never been a champion, let alone a Super Bowl representative that's been dead last in special teams DVOA. And like a minute after I said that, they blocked the kick right before halftime, which was 3 points. And then at the end of the game, they blocked the punt, which happens to be the difference in a game. And something strange too, how often do you see a guy pick that ball up clean? That Niners defender, I don't know who it was, but how often do you see a ball that's spinning around in the air get picked up clean by a defender and run 2 yards in the end zone?
I think that situation, because I actually saw that play live, and when it was blocked,
so did I.
It went straight up in the air. And typically when something's blocked, it usually goes directly down to the side or straight back where like you can get eyes on it pretty quick. That had some hang time after it ricocheted off the defender's hands. I don't know who got
it. Was up in the air for what seemed like 10 minutes, right?
And like it looked like just Green Bay stopped playing. And of course, as soon as they hit the ground, the Niners saw it, pounced on it, and he walked in untouched. And that's when I knew that the game, they had no shot. Like I thought the defense may have been able to hold on, and they held on for as long as they could, but you can't win a game like that with that offensive performance and that special teams performance. I don't care how talented or how good you are.
Yeah.
The way the Packers played that way on Saturday night, they didn't deserve to win the game. The better team on Saturday night won, which was the Niners.
And I mean, Rodgers, and I know this is part of his allure, right? That he approaches the game, not that he doesn't care, but in a very calm manner where, he's dictating. But I mean, at a certain point, man, like it's 10-10 in the playoffs in Lambeau Field. He's walking up to the field with his hands in his little fanny pack hand warmer, right? Taking him out right before the snap. Like have some urgency, man, or something. And I just want to, before we move on to the next game, I promise I'm not going to rub this in your face too much. I know you're distraught as a Packers fan. I had to bring up our text conversations from last week, right before the game, where I was giving you paragraphs about how the Niners are winning. Do you remember the text you sent me? It says, "You are setting yourself up for a beatdown on the podcast this week." Do you remember what I replied with?
I was literally talking about myself.
Well, I said, the Packers are good, but I haven't seen them win a good win in months. And outside the division, Rodgers is pretty average. You said, you're setting yourself up for a beatdown on the pod. And I said, or I'm setting myself up for a coronation.
Well, they're best.
It looks like tonight is a coronation.
To go back to that point, I don't think I responded to that question because I was at a retirement party for a good friend of mine's in-laws.
Retirement party?
Yeah.
Good for him.
But the best team that the Pack had beaten in the last like 5-6 weeks was the Rams. They beat them at home. They beat them pretty handily. And I know they're your team and everything. We're going to get to them later in this episode, but
Oh, we're going to get to them
I
right now.
felt you can only control who you're playing against on the field that day, and it could be a string of great teams. It could be a string of crappy teams, and Pack just played a bunch of average to below average teams to close out the season. Obviously, the loss to the Lions was a little eye opening too, even though they didn't play their starters the full game. But that's a game you still should win with the talent comparison between the two. So credit to the Niners. I'm done talking about this season with the Packers. I still have my Super Bowl prop that I posted last week that a bunch of us are riding on with Cam Akers winning the Super Bowl MVP. If that happens, I'm going to be happy and content with my cash out on that bet for sure.
Yeah, well, good cash out by you taking your Packers futures off the market right before that loss. That was great timing for you. You mentioned the Niners. Kudos to them. We're gonna talk about them when we get to the divisional championship games. Don't want to blow the lead yet, but we're gonna move on to, like you said, my team, the Rams, my team by default. And I know that this was the first game on Sunday. We'll go back to the Saturday game later. Turned out to be a great game. And if you couldn't tell, tonight is an adult beverage podcast. We've had a few of these, but minus that, this does not change my exuberance for the Rams. They've been my team monetarily all year. I thought they had a good shot to get to the playoffs, to get to the Super Bowl. They're proving me right. They're in the Final Four. But God damn it, man, if my heart rate wasn't 300 on Sunday for about an hour and a half, how do you get that kind of lead and look so good against Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback ever? And they just, took their foot off the gas. The second half, they're running the ball on 1st and 10. They're running the ball on 2nd and 9. And they're putting Stafford in these behind the chain situations where, he's bound to mess up. And, luckily he came through, and that end of the game was incredible. His 2 passes to Kupp on that final drive were amazing. But the whole time, I just didn't expect it to happen. And your boy, Cam Akers, he would have been the Super Bowl MVP if the Bucs went on to win the Super Bowl, because he fumbled the ball twice to them, gave up 7 points before the half, and also gave the Bucs the ball back with a couple minutes left when the Rams just needed basically 1 first down to ice the game. You would have won that bet then if the Bucs won the Super Bowl, because he would have been their MVP. But just crazy, man. Like, it wasn't quite 28-3, right? It was 27-3.
It was close.
But that collapse. Let's talk about this game in 2 parts. One, the first half, the Rams looked like the best team in the league, right?
They dominated.
They're dominating. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders. And I think most importantly, they're getting Beckham involved early and often. They're giving him the first catch of the game instead of Cooper Kupp, because Cooper Kupp knows he's number one. And if Beckham gets involved early, he's a much different player than if you don't get him involved early.
Well, yeah,
right?
you look at a couple plays in the first half where it was with Beckham scoring. I think Beckham scored early, or he had a couple big catches early, whatever.
He had a couple big catches. Kupp scored the first touchdown.
Doing that was able to allow Cooper Kupp later on in that half to sneak behind the defense for that 80-yard touchdown. So Odell's taking defenders with him, which is opening up the lanes for Kupp, which is exactly what Robert Woods did when he was starting earlier the year before he got hurt. And that's what obviously Kupp, he didn't have that number 2 guy with him. So he was getting all the attention. Now you got Odell, who's playing like the Odell we know, the good Odell, and Kupp, I think, is going to play a much larger factor in these next couple of weeks.
Well, I think so too. And you get Odell involved. Let us not forget, Odell was viewed as the best wideout in football for whether it be a week or whether it be, 6 months. He's a phenomenal talent at that, right? He's definitely not the best wideout in the game, but a phenomenal talent, a phenomenal athlete. I don't know if you saw that one catch he had where he's falling out of bounds and he double clutches the ball. You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
He grabs it with one hand as he's falling down. So this guy can do some crazy stuff out there. And I think having him as an engaged participant in the team is critical for them to win, because as a number 2 wideout, next to Cooper Kupp, who had the best season statistically in NFL history for a wideout, is a huge advantage when you have somebody capable like Matt Stafford back there throwing them the ball. So this first half, they're looking like the best team in the league, like they're going to run away with the next 3 weeks, right? And they dropped actually to plus 200 for the Super Bowl at halftime of that game, which is nuts, okay?
Yep.
Now, right before half, they have a chance to go up 27-3. Akers fumbles the ball. They don't get any points before the half. And at that point, it's 20-3. And if you gave me 20-3 before the game, you said, hey, at halftime, the Rams are going to be up 20-3. I'd be feeling pretty good, right? Because that's a phenomenal half by all accountability. You held Brady to 3 points. You've scored 20. Obviously, you're in control of the game. Stafford, I think, was well over 200 passing yards at that point because, like you said, he had an 80-yarder to cup or something
I
like that.
think he was at 220 at halftime.
220.
If I'm not mistaken. Yep.
Even then, right, they come out of the third quarter, they get the ball first, they don't score, but then they stop the Bucs real quick. And then they do score. And now it's 27-3. And it's halfway through the third quarter. And yet still, I'm having flashbacks to the Niners game in the last week of the regular season. And I'm saying, yeah, man, McVay just lets off the gas in these situations. And that offense is not as good when he's letting off the gas and he starts running the ball. He starts getting conservative. And that offense is at its best when Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee are out there either blocking and or running routes on every play. Stafford is looking for an ADOT of 15 or more. And yet they continue to run the ball. And I know Cam Akers is their guy. But guess what, man? He fumbled on the goal line. He doesn't get the ball again for the rest of the game, right? And they stuck with him, and I admire that. But guess what happened? He fumbled the ball at the end of the game, too. What is with these Rams that are just getting these leads, looking like the greatest team, the greatest show on turf that they used to be, and then just letting it off and letting these teams back in the games? Is that going to be a problem?
I think McVay, at least in those situations, he's trying to play the analytics. When you get up big, you're going to try and limit the amount of possessions that the opposing team has in the second half to score. And the way you do that is run the football and you just eat up time. Unfortunately, the Rams don't have a stud running back that can just churn out yards like a Derrick Henry or any of the other big time running backs in the NFL. It's relatively young running back, inexperienced running back, obviously with the 2 fumbles in that game. But I think McVay's got to be able to trust Stafford. Stafford's a Hall of Fame quarterback. He's got a Hall of Fame resume so far with his stats. I think he won't be a first ballot, but he should get into Canton someday. You got to keep the ball in your best players and your playmakers' hands. And for them, it's Stafford to Kupp. And second option would definitely be OBJ, in my opinion. And that's how they're going to win the Super Bowl, is not taking their foot off the gas and just drilling teams and moving the ball up and down the field and letting Stafford carve it up like he's done in his entire career.
So do you think there's any hesitancy in McVay? Because I like McVay, and I think he's one of the better coaches in the league. We talked about his clock management last week and kind of his play calling and his timeout usage. It's not ideal, but none of the coaches really have that. I think McVay's a strong coach. Do you think any of his hesitancy and his changing in play calls has to do with the old, don't let Stafford screw it up kind of deal? Because Stafford has thrown these picks in these last couple weeks. Do you think any of it has to do with that, like not wanting him to have the ball in his hand to give him the chance to screw up?
I don't know. Maybe McVay is just a little bit nervous in the crunch time of big games. Obviously, we talked about it with Aaron Rodgers, great regular season guy. But when push comes to shove, when you got to win games in the playoffs, that you don't show up consistently or for an entire game. And somewhere down the line, you're going to run into a good team that will take advantage of that. If you don't play a full 60 minutes of football, you start to play conservative, run the clock. That's not the way the NFL is being built anymore. We're going to talk about it in one of the games later, but if you got to be slinging the football around majority of the game and not be afraid to throw 5-6 yard routes and move the ball up the field that way, if you don't have that power running game, like some of the other teams do. I think McVay, he's a smart enough guy that should be able to make the adjustments, but and that's why he's coaching and I'm not, and I'm just giving what I see, which is
right.
It's tough to do in the moment. That's for sure.
No, I understand. And a lot of it's decision-making, but at the same time, he did not let his foot off the gas on Arizona, and that's why they continued to win. And I know Arizona is not a very good team, and Kyler is different from Tom Brady, right? But you saw this 2 weeks ago or 3, whenever he played the Niners. Okay. The same deal. They were up 20-0 at half or 20-3 or something like that. And they let him right back in the game because they started running the ball. And I think somebody should tell him, and maybe you and I need to take this upon ourselves to go write McVay a letter that, hey, a 2-yard slant to Cooper Kupp is the same as a run. It accomplishes the same thing. It allows Stafford to have the ball, but it's still a completed pass and the clock still runs, right? And now you're not running the ball. You're not taking your foot off the gas on these passing plays. And I just think that's where their offense is. And as a Rams bettor, I'm very nervous for this game against the Niners because Shanahan owns him. they haven't beaten them. The Rams haven't beaten the Niners since 2018. And I don't, I'm not going to bet against them because I do think they win this game. And I think that they cover whatever the spread is, but I'm very worried that they're going to kind of let off. Maybe they build this big lead and maybe it just doesn't all go their way at the end of the game. But they've been a great team all year. And I do have faith in them to continue this next week.
Well, one of the concerns is LA is not typically known for being like a homer stadium like Kansas City or Pittsburgh.
No, not at all.
Bay. And San Francisco is in California. They are going to travel fans to that game.
Did you see what's going on? With the tickets?
I believe I did, but if you want to explain it for our viewers.
Yeah, so the SoFi ticket website, right, has posted that you will need to show proof of residency to purchase tickets or to purchase resale tickets, and you need to be local. You cannot be from San Francisco or elsewhere to purchase these tickets.
It's a small move.
I believe they've taken that language down because I'm not sure that's totally legal, but they are essentially encouraging LA Rams fans, however many there are, to buy these tickets. And I forget who it was, but some wife of the lineman on the Rams or something has offered to buy any resale tickets from fans so that they do not go to Niners fans, which is crazy that this is even happening. But it's the same thing we talked about with the Chargers, right? There's just no Chargers fans in LA. The Rams have more fans in LA, but LA is such a dense, magnitude. What am I looking for? Conglomeration of people from everywhere that there's Cowboys fans in LA. There's Niners fans in LA. There's not a surplus of Rams fans in LA.
Right.
So it should be an interesting game. I'm glad that they get another home game though. That's huge. As a 4 seed,
could be back-to-back home games.
It could be back-to-back. They could have the Super Bowl there too. So it's the very rare home away home split for the Rams. So let's hope they get it. The first game of the week, let's rewind a little bit. Feels like 10 years ago, right? Bengals Titans was mid-Saturday afternoon. It started when the sun was up on Saturday, and I don't feel like I took another breath until the sun set on almost midnight on Sunday. But the Bengals Titans, and man, I keep betting against Joe Burrow. I keep betting against these Bengals. I feel like I'm right every goddamn week, and they keep winning. How are they doing it?
I don't know, because the offensive line isn't helping their quarterback out. He got sacked 9 times in that game.
9 times. You don't
Saturday.
win when you get sacked 9 times.
But you got a playmaker like Jamar Chase. I know he's a rookie, but he's had that connection with Burrow since they were teammates at LSU. And obviously that's translated to the professional level pretty quickly. And it's going to be a great combination to watch over the next several years. The Bengals have flash right now. Joe Burrow wins big games. He's proven that his entire career, although short. You look at college, he won the national title. He's now won back-to-back playoff games. The Bengals haven't done that in years, 30 plus years.
They haven't even won one.
Whatever it was. Right. And now you got a chance to shock the world, go into Kansas City and steal a game. And if you can keep the game close, and they've got a rookie field goal kicker who is gutsy, and he reminds me a lot of Robbie Gould right now. Gould's not missing field goals ever in the postseason. This guy McPherson, he could be the difference maker in Kansas City on Sunday. I don't know if they're playing the night game on Sunday, but
they're playing first.
I'm assuming this line, I haven't looked at it yet. I'm assuming it's going to be a touchdown or more for Kansas City at home, but I would not be surprised to see the Bengals really grit this out and keep it close. They did beat the Chiefs a couple weeks ago in Cincinnati. I believe they won on a field goal. So it's there. It's there for them, and they've got an opportunity, which I don't think anybody would have predicted the Bengals being the one of 2 AFC finalists this year. They're probably a couple years early, like our Red Sox we've been discussing so many episodes ago. They're a season, maybe 2 seasons early, which isn't a bad thing.
Yeah, and I mean, like you said, McPherson is the legit, and that's important to have a good kicker like that. You think of the good kickers in the league. You have Gold, you have Tucker, obviously, and now you have McPherson. When you have that guy back, and Bucker, of course, right? When you have those guys back, although he didn't look too good on Sunday, but when you have those guys back there, it does promote a level of confidence. And I don't know if you heard Burrow after the game. But he was saying when McPherson out there and he's warming up, doing his kick swings, he's telling the holder, he's like, well, it looks like we're going to the AFC Championship game before he even takes that kick. And that's the level of confidence you want from your team, right? So they believe it. And they're right to believe it because they're in the AFC Championship. I don't believe it, Burke. I don't believe them at all. I don't know how they've skated by these past 2 weeks. They were aided by an inadvertent whistle against the Raiders. They were aided by the worst play call of the weekend, to go back to our opening segment. The Titans have the ball. It's 3rd and 1 near midfield. All they need to do is get a first down and they win the game. They run a Ryan Tannehill option play. When is the last time Ryan Tannehill has run an option play, man? That was ridiculous. He loses 2 yards and then they run Derrick Henry on 4th and 2. And obviously they're running Derrick Henry on 4th and 2 and they get stuffed. And then, the Bengals get the ball back and they go down and score. But I feel like they've kind of skated by these 2 weeks. They've gotten a bit lucky. And not to say they're not good. They're one of the final 4 teams. So obviously they're a good team. Burrow has proven himself calm and collected. And even though he got sacked 9 times, he got up every time and he marched them down the field. And I admire him for that. I don't believe in them. And I know you said they beat the Chiefs a couple weeks ago in Cincinnati, and they did. They won by a field goal. I can tell you Cincinnati feels like they got refereed in that game because the Chiefs were up by 14 2 separate occasions in that game. And if not for a pass interference call on a 3rd and forever to Jamar Chase, that was kind of weak if we want to be blunt about it. No referees are watching the show, but if they are, it was kind of weak. Sean Hockley, and he's not on this game. Sean Hockley is not calling this game, as far as I know. Thank God. And I feel like the Chiefs are just going to be out for blood in this game. You said the line was 7. It is 7. It opened at 6.5. There's no way it gets back down to 6.5. It will stay at that 7.
Yep.
So I'm very interested to see what kind of juice these books will lay on the 7. We might see like minus 130 for a normal line of minus 7, which is nuts because I don't think they let it go to 6.5. I don't know how the Chiefs lose this one. I mean, if you had to take a guess, because I know this answer, the game total is 54.5. So you can do the math. What do you think the Chiefs' projected point total is this week?
54.5. It's probably like 31.
It's 31, exactly 31. And the over is like minus 120. So they're getting to 31 points. I don't know how the Bengals keep up and get to 30 or 28 even. I don't know.
You may, if they let Burrow kind of sling it a little bit, you never know what could happen. And we saw a gunslinging show on Sunday night between Mahomes and Josh Allen. That's going to be a matchup over the next 8 to 10 years, as long as they stay with their respective teams. That's going to be exciting to watch. It'll probably be the new AFC rivalry based on how these teams are set up and how young Allen and Mahomes are, even though it seems like they've been around forever so far.
Well, that's what we in the biz call a good transition there, Burke, to our last game of the weekend, Bills Chiefs, which was the best game I maybe have ever seen. I hate that they started it at 6:30 because that Rams game ended about 6:15. And I actually had to go for a walk around my block after that game because I feel like I played in that game.
You probably had to change your underwear. I'm sure you did.
Oh, I had to change every layer that I had on me. Yeah. And I almost slipped on the ice outside and I couldn't, I had to leave my phone at home. I had to be away from my family for a bit. I don't know, but they started that game at 6:30 and it didn't end till what felt like 2 a.m. I felt like I was watching that game for hours. It was fantastic. The showdown of Mahomes and Allen is going to be, people are comparing it to Brady and Manning. It has the potential to be better, right? Not saying that either one of those quarterbacks are as good as Brady or Manning, and they might be, who knows? But the pure quarterbacking strength and the way the game has evolved to these quarterbacks, it's insane. And the over was never in doubt at that game. It was 14-14 at halftime, so not super high flying, on pace for 56. But I never doubted that they would score points. And in the last 2 minutes, Mahomes threw for over 220 yards. And Josh Allen threw for over 150 in the last 2 minutes of the game. Okay. And I want to start here because there's a lot of aspects I want to go to this game. Josh Allen did nothing wrong in that game.
No.
It's, good for the Chiefs that they won, but how bad do you feel for Josh, man?
He's going to get his. I don't know when it's going to be, as long as he continues to perform like that on the big stage. I don't remember a quarterback having as good of a rating that Josh Allen had on Sunday night and losing a game. Gabriel Davis, 4 tutties, 200 plus yards receiving.
Incredible.
He's going to be a fantasy get next year in those middle rounds to fill out your wide receiving slots.
Are you going to take him before you take a kicker, you think?
I might take McPherson like first or second round. The guy's got stones. No, but I just, it's a tough way to lose. Somebody had to lose that game, unfortunately, because both quarterbacks played fantastic. Playmakers were getting theirs all over the place. The only gripe I really have, and I know a lot of people are going to be talking about that, is should the NFL change their overtime rules and give, at least in the playoffs, give that opposing team a shot at redemption.
Yeah. Well, and that's where I wanted to start actually after we talked about Josh Allen, and I'm not done with him, but I wanted to start there with the overtime rules because, they're not fair. And I think Josh said it perfectly after the game. He said, there's nothing we can do. Those are the rules. Obviously, the rules going in. So he's not complaining about them. And what he said was, we would have been celebrating too if we got the ball first. So there's nothing, the Bills aren't crying about the rule or anything, but the rule is bad, man. It's fact terrible. that Mahomes, essentially Josh Allen called heads and they lost the game because he called heads, right? And now people are going to say, well, defense has to matter. Well, yeah, it does matter. But like at a certain point, the quarterback play gets so elite that you can't do anything about it, right? And even if you hold Mahomes holding him to a field goal there is a major victory. Holding him to no score is impossible in that scenario, right? So I think there's a couple interesting scenarios. Somebody I was listening to this week had an interesting play. I don't know how I feel about it totally, but he said whoever gets the ball first, let's say Mahomes gets the ball, right? And they score a touchdown in 8 plays. Josh Allen gets the ball and has to score a touchdown in 7 plays and they win. What do you think about that?
That is interesting.
It's interesting. It's a little too complicated for me, and I don't love it. But I can see, on the CBS broadcast, you got Romo. Oh, Jim, that's getting to 5 plays. He's only got 2 left. You know what I mean? I think that would be super interesting to see. But I don't know. I think it's too complicated for me.
Yeah, I could see them potentially adapting some of the college aspects where you alternate possessions. Like college, you start the 25. Maybe for the NFL, you start the 45 or you start the 50 even, and you alternate until the tie is broken. At least gives both teams an opportunity to do something with the football. Because for a game of this magnitude to go on to the AFC Championship game and have your entire playoff line be held to a coin toss is just blasphemy.
Yeah,
the Bills should be fighting tooth and nail to get a rule addendum to the NFL to make this change. I know the Chiefs they tried it when
it was a couple of years ago when Brady got the ball and Mahomes
Brady beat him at home and they didn't see the ball. You had that situation in the Super Bowl when Brady beat the Falcons. They took the ball in overtime and never gave it back. It's just, it feels like you can't put the weight on something in a game that's completely out of your control, like a coin toss. It's just unfair to both teams involved.
And I think, that play counter is interesting. I think, the Ravens had something preseason they proposed where one team gets to pick where the ball starts on the field and the other team gets to pick offense or defense. I think that's somewhat interesting. So you could pick that the ball starts on your own 10 and then the team gets to say, hey, we want to drive 90 yards or we want to stop you from going 9. I think that's interesting. I think the simplest solution is just play another quarter. Play 15 more minutes. Both teams get to touch the ball.
Play a full 15-minute quarter. And if it's tied after that,
play another one. Play another one.
Or go to sudden death after that because both teams have had their opportunities to score. Or after the first overtime, you go to you're not going to want to hear me say this, but you can go to a kickoff with field goal kickers to set the.
That's the last thing I want to hear.
Like a shootout in soccer or hockey. That'd be interesting to watch.
Yeah, the root of it is I don't like that, but the root of it is both teams have to touch the ball, right? I don't want to cry about it too much, but you can't have one team score and then, the game is over because Josh Allen would have scored the next possession if they had the ball. Now, here's where we have to end. The Bills can avoid this if they hold the lead for 13 MF seconds, right? They score. And I don't know if you were watching the game at this point. I hope you were. Josh Allen throws a touchdown on 4th and 17, I think, or 4th and 13. And he throws it to Gabe Davis.
Yep.
And he's wide open. And the camera pans to Josh Allen. And he's got this look on his face. And I keep seeing this look, right? Because I'm watching this live on TV and I'm stunned. And he has that look, and you know it because you play sports, I play sports. Like, we get the idea of being in the moment. He's not celebrating. He's not like jumping up and down, pumping his fist. He's standing there, like staring out into space, like goosebumps all over his body. Like, I just effing did it, right? Like, I did it. I did what I came here to do. We were here 1 year ago and we lost to this team and we watched their fireworks on their field and I just beat them. I did what I had to do. And he's standing there, like, deep breathing, looking out into space. Everybody's hugging him and he has no idea what's going on. And I can't believe that they blew that lead. You have 13 seconds just to squib kick it.
They had to go the length of the field. They had to go the length of the field. And
Mahomes got 56 yards in 13 seconds. 2 plays.
Which
inexcusable.
In my opinion, that you, as a defense in that situation where they have to go the length of the field, I mean, a lot of these guys, they're playing prevent defense, but you're trying to prevent a field goal. You're not trying to prevent a touchdown.
That's it. They were playing to stop the end zone.
Prevent the field goal instead.
And I don't know if you saw,
maybe send guys, make Mahomes scramble and run,
make him do something, right?
Yeah.
You know, and I don't know if you saw, there's 2 things interesting here. Number one, on that last play to Kelsey, the first catch to Ty Hill, like, I kind of understand how they let that happen. The second one to Kelsey is inexcusable. And the replays, you can hear Mahomes on the broadcast literally saying, he says, "Do it, Kelsey, do it." And that means, you know, run the post route or whatever they've called. He is audibly saying Kelsey's name, and the Bills just don't guard him. They let him run a post route in the middle. Kelsey's their best player, their second best player, and they're leaving him open. That's inexcusable.
Yeah, well, that part of that too is how good these quarterbacks are. I'm sure Mahomes saw exactly what defense was out there, and he knew, regardless of what they did, if they audibled or not, that Kelsey was going to be open. And you can, I mean, like, when you're a pitcher and you kind of tip your pitches, but you're still getting guys out, that's kind of what Mahomes was doing, just showing his cards and saying, here's what I'm going to do to beat you. And he went out and executed in the moment, got Butker in field goal range, and the rest is history.
Well, here's the next thing too. 2 aspects to this. There's 13 seconds left. If you just don't kick off out of the end zone, I've seen a lot of people saying squib kick. You just have to kick off to like the 5 or the 10. Make them run it back, right?
Yeah.
And now you're down to 9 seconds, and that's 1 play instead of 2. Yeah. Also, once they line up, they could have literally tackled every Chiefs receiver on the field.
Yeah.
And taken a 5-yard penalty. Like, there's 10 ways to win that game with 13 seconds left. And it sickens me as somebody who had a significant financial stake in a Rams-Bills Super Bowl to see that, but also somebody who just wanted to see Josh. And I have nothing against the Chiefs. I love Patrick Mahomes. I love the Chiefs offense, but, like, man, Josh Allen feels like he deserved that one, doesn't he?
Yeah, but football is a team sport, and you got to depend on the guys when you're not on the field to get it done for you. And unfortunately, the Bills defense let Josh and the offense down in those final dreadful 13 seconds.
Yeah. And he'll be seeing that all year. You know, we've had for over a calendar year now, the image of Steph Diggs in the background of the Chiefs celebration last year. You remember that? I've been seeing that make its round around Twitter.
With the confetti coming down.
With the confetti coming down and him just standing kind of frozen in time. We're going to have that Josh Allen sitting on the bench with his helmet on. They keep panning to him in the overtime. He's got his helmet on. He's ready. He feels like he's going to go back out there, and he has to feel that way.
You have to.
And he never got a shot. And, so if you're the Bills, you almost say, like, well, what the hell do we do? Right. Because this was our best shot and we still couldn't beat the Chiefs on their home turf. Like, what do you do to retool? I don't know. It's going to be a long offseason for them.
I don't think they have to really retool too much. They
don't. Team. But the thing is, they still lost to the Chiefs. They gave it all they had. How do you play a better game than that? And they lost.
Figure out on defense in crunch time. That's simple.
I guess so. Well, after all that, man, we're down to 2 games left. Only 3 games left in the whole NFL season. It's kind of sad in a way, but 4 teams. I want to talk about the most enticing Super Bowl matchups because there's 4 different options, right? to me, the most appealing Super Bowl matchup is Chiefs Rams. Do you agree or disagree?
Out of the teams that are left, yes, that would be the most exciting to watch for sure. I think you got a lot of storylines. You got coaches and basically teams that have been, though both of them have been to a Super Bowl in the last 3 years.
Right.
I don't think you can get a better matchup than that. But you could also get the Chiefs Niners rematch from 2 years ago too.
Yeah, and that's number 2 on my list is Chiefs Niners. I don't know that I want to see the rematch, but I would enjoy it more than the Bengals being there. I think I don't want to watch a Bengals Super Bowl. I don't know. Do you?
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean, it's a fun story, and like Burrow is entertaining, and he's going to be a great quarterback. Hell, you could say he already is a great quarterback. I don't really want to see him in the Super. I would much rather see. I feel like we got robbed if we didn't see the winner of that Mahomes-Allen's game in the Super Bowl. So I kind of want to see the Chiefs. Obviously, I'm biased because I want to see the Rams in the Super Bowl. I think the most boring Super Bowl is Bengals-Niners. I don't know. Is that you on pace with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the star power that the Rams and Chiefs potentially have, you wouldn't get that much out of a Niners Bengals matchup.
Right.
Obviously that could change. You got players like Deebo Samuel and Bosa on the Niners who are becoming household superstars in their own rights. Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase doing the same thing as well. But right now it's trending toward, and I really hope it's Mahomes versus Stafford. I think it'd be a great opportunity for Stafford in his first Super Bowl appearance to see what he can do on the big stage. And they got superstars all over the field. You got Aaron Donald, best defensive player of the last decade. You got OBJ and Cooper Kupp, who are stud wide receivers. Obviously, you got the three-headed monster with Mahomes, Kelsey, and Hill. So,
well, you probably have some of the best at their position, right? Probably Mahomes is the best quarterback you'd want right now. Donald's the best defensive player you'd want right now. Kelsey's the best tight end you'd want right now. Cooper Kupp is probably the best wideout you'd want right now, right?
So Tyreek might be number 2.
And Tyreek is number 2. Like, how do you beat that matchup? Plus, you got Chris Jones on the other side, right? There's a lot of star power. Jalen Ramsey. There's a lot of star power in these teams, and I would love to see that. Obviously, I'm financially invested and biased that I would want to see the Rams there.
Same, but for much
for you too,
reasons.
for Cam Akers, if he wins the MVP. And I think this is worth a conversation for our viewers. So we're going to talk about something called hedging. This is a betting podcast, and we want to talk about betting and gambling and how to make the most money. And there's a strategy out there called hedging, right? And hedging your bet, for those of you that don't know, means when you bet on a certain outcome and suddenly you think the outcome is going to shift the other way, you can hedge your bet. So if I bet $100 on result A and suddenly I like result B, well, I can bet $100 on result B, and I can essentially either win if it's result B, or I can neutralize myself, and break even if option A happens, right? So me, let's say I have $100 that I'm going to win if the Rams win the Super Bowl. That might be more, that might be less than I have stakes. I don't want to disclose that on this podcast.
I think we all know the answer to that.
I think it might be a little less than I have stake, but let's say I stand to win $100 if the Rams win the Super Bowl, right? There's ways to hedge it at this point because they've made it to the final 4 teams. And the ways to hedge it are a couple different methods. And I'm interested to pick Burke's brain because I've been thinking about this all week and I've been running the scenarios. All right. And I'm going to pull up the FanDuel Sportsbook app right here just to get the odds of all these scenarios that I'm talking about. Okay. But what you would think first is, okay, well, why don't I just bet the other 3 teams to win the Super Bowl, right? If I have the Rams at this point, I can bet the other 3 teams and I can win no matter what, all right? Well, the Chiefs are plus 130, the Niners are plus 460, and the Bengals are plus 850. So that leaves you vulnerable if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, right? So I can't do that. Are you right?
Right.
All right?
Right.
Because if the Chiefs win, then I lose the Niners, Rams, and Bengals bet, and I don't make enough to make that back, right?
Correct.
Okay. So here's the other options that you could do. You can take the exact Super Bowl matchup, and I can bet Chiefs Niners, and I can bet Bengals Niners, all right, at plus 230 for Chiefs Niners and plus 900 for Bengals Niners. And if I bet that at a fraction, I can lock in about 30% of my Rams bet. Do you think that's even worth it?
I don't think so. at this point. I'm not a big
Okay.
hedging guy. I trust my instincts that my original bet's going to be the one going through. But if you're not as confident in your original bet, you shouldn't have placed it in the first place, being the responsible gamblers that follow us. But if you're looking to make sure you do turn a profit on something, it's definitely an avenue to consider, to take other options that provide a larger payout. Don't invest as much money in it, but if it does happen, you're gonna come out in the green.
Well, you're right. And here's the other thing I can do. And I'm going to, if I haven't lost you already, I'm definitely going to lose you right now. You could place 3 bets. You can place a Chiefs Niners Super Bowl and a Chiefs Rams Super Bowl bet at even odds and plus 230. All right. And then on top of that, you can place a Bengals Niners money line parlay at plus 856. And that way, if the Chiefs win, you have all Super Bowl options accounted for. And if the Bengals win, you have a Niners money line bet and you have a Rams Super Bowl bet. And that locks in about 25% of the Rams bet. Am I way overthinking this or just a little bit overthinking this?
I think you're crazy, but if you
well,
you
you're
don't
not
think,
you're not
if you
going to think
don't-
I'm crazy in a second, because you know what I did today?
Uh-oh.
I thought about all these strategies and I said, how can I hedge the Rams? How can I guarantee myself some money? I've made it since July with these bets. And you know what I did? I placed a $500 wager on the Rams to beat the Chiefs at plus 400. Let's go. I'm all in on the Rams, baby. Let's do it.
All your eggs are in one basket, my friend.
All my eggs are in the Rams basket. I think the Chiefs are going to win. I think the Rams are going to win. And like you said, hedging over the long term is a negative EV proposition. So it decreases your expected value. So hedging is not good over the long term. So we don't like to hedge, right? We bet these Rams for a reason, and we want to stick with that. That's basically what you were saying, right?
Yep.
Nothing has changed. We're much closer to the finish line now than we were in July. So if you ever find yourself in a situation where you've made a profitable futures bet, and you get close and you want to hedge, my suggestion would just be don't do it. Now, if the Rams get to the Super Bowl, I'm probably going to hedge and just bet the Chiefs, because that's a much simpler hedge to make, and to say, hey, I've made it 8 months. Let me just hedge for like 70%, right? And guarantee myself 70% either way. At that point, I think it makes sense, right?
I would agree for sure.
Yeah. But at this week, you probably can't. So speaking of this week, let's talk about it. So we got 2 good games. I think 2 pretty good games. Start with the 49ers at Rams. That's the late game. Rams minus 3.5. Total is 46.5. McVay hasn't beat Shanahan since 2018. Rams have looked vulnerable, and Rams have looked, impenetrable the last couple of weeks. Who you got in this one?
At 3.5,
3.5. It's probably the right line, right?
It's yeah. I honestly do think it's a 3-point game, which is why the Niners are very tempting at plus 3.
3.5.
And well, if you think the Niners are going to keep it within 3, the Niners are going to cover 3.5.
Right. Yep.
The Rams don't. So that's Vegas. Vegas knows what we're thinking, knows what most of America's thinking with this game. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think the Rams are going to use that loss to San Francisco a few weeks ago as motivation all week. And I think in order to support your hefty investment in this team, I am going to ride the Rams.
Let's go.
Minus 3.5. And I think they cover this relatively easily.
I mean, I appreciate the support, and I'm kind of in the same boat. I can't go against the Rams at this point. They've beaten the Bucks. They've beaten Tom Brady. So what else why else would I doubt them? Right. The Packers are gone. They don't have to go to Lambeau. They're at home now. Yet somehow they're here against their division rival that they just blew a lead to a month ago. Could have knocked them out of the playoffs, which coincidentally has worked in their favor so far, because they got to go to Tampa against the depleted Bucks team, and the Packers got knocked out by somebody else. The 3.5 is a hard hook. It's a hard hook to stomach for me, because I can see this being a 3-point game, no matter what the score is at halftime. I think this game stays under the total of 46.5. I don't think the Niners can put up many points, and I think that Niners D is trouble. If Sean McVay, if you are out there on this, can you see who's watching the YouTube live stream? Is Sean McVay in our chat room right now? Because if he is, I just want to look in the camera and I want to tell him, if you get a lead or if the game is close, the Niners want you to run the ball. Do not give them what they want. They are the best run defense in the league. They will entice you to run the ball. They will put, 6 people in the box. They will want Cam Akers to scurry up the middle. They will want to strip him. Do not give them what they want. Continue to use Stafford. Continue to use your weapons. Continue to pressure Jimmy. All right. He's hurt. He's handsome as hell, but he is hurt. His thumb hurts and his shoulder hurts, right? And I'm not sure which one is more important.
Aaron Donald and Von Miller loose.
That's right. And the Rams pressure very well up the middle and on the edge on occasion too with Von Miller now, his resurgence, right? Jimmy tried to throw about 6 interceptions last week, and he only threw 1, but he tried to throw 4 or 5, right? Let him throw those picks, okay? Keep the ball. If you give up the ball because you're passing and they're incompletes, that's not a problem, because if you give Jimmy enough throws, he's going to screw it up. Okay. So McVay should keep his foot on the gas in this one. I have to pick the Rams. I think the game stays under. What do you think about the total? 46.5.
I really do think it's going to come down to defense and kicking, quite frankly. I 46.5 is probably the right number. I could see this game being like, 27-20 puts it over. Oh God.
I think 47 is the right number, right? Yeah. I think that's a tough 46.5 gets tough. I don't know that I'm going to bet the under, but if I had to go one way or another, I would take the under.
Maybe 23-17.
That's kind of what I see it as.
23-16, kind of like.
I kind of see it as a 23-16.
Kind of what the Bengals have been dealing with through their run, those kind of scoring games.
Yeah.
I think with the pressure of getting to the Super Bowl.
Well, that's right. It's going to tighten up.
McVay is going to play a little conservative, and I think it's going to shorten the game a little bit. Same with the Niners. They're going to try and run the football. We know what they're going to try and do. Sure. And I think it's going to result in a much quicker game because the clock's going to be running all the time. So naturally that means less points with less attempts.
Yeah, so I agree. And it really comes down to, so Jimmy's finger has been hurting, and, against the Cowboys and the Rams, he didn't really numb the pain before the game is what I'm hearing. And then he tried to tough through it. Right. And at halftime he couldn't. So he injected whatever numbing or pain management they use. And then he played better in the second halves of those games. And last week he did use the pain management or whatever. And this week he's going to use the pain management. So I could see them coming out a little hotter. But I have to stick with the Rams here. I can't bet against my team at this point. Lay the 3.5 at home. Rams get this done. They're just the better team. The early game, Bengals at Chiefs. Chiefs are -7, as we said earlier. The total in this one's 54.5, so it's very steep. We just saw a thriller. I think it was 31-28, right, in the last one, or 34-31, something like that. The Bengals won on a field goal in the last seconds of the game. I don't see any scenario, and I've been saying this for 3 weeks, so I apologize to our listeners, but I'm going to say it again. I don't see any scenario the Bengals win this game. The Chiefs should cover the 7. The game should go over this 54.5. I don't know how the Bengals stop Mahomes and the Chiefs after what I just saw last week. The Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl, aren't they, bud?
All signs are pointing to that, yes, but I do see the Bengals getting off to a hot start. They've shown that in the first 2 playoff games. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bengals have the lead after the first quarter. It's happened before with the Chiefs. They've gotten down pretty big early, and they've come all the way back and kind of rolled in the game. I'm expecting something similar here, so I'd look at the Bengals first quarter. That's probably my prop bet for the week, but I think the Chiefs cover this 7. I just don't think the Bengals are a little too inexperienced in this big of a moment. Nobody's been there before from this team, really. And this is the 3rd or 4th straight AFC Championship game for the Chiefs now. I think it's 4.
4th, and not only that, but the 4th one that they have hosted.
Yes,
that's impressive.
Having these games at home are critical. And Arrowhead is a very big home field advantage, especially in the playoffs. I think the Chiefs are going to put up some numbers. The Bengals are going to put up numbers early, but I think they're going to fall out. I see this game being like 30-13.
Oh, wow. Chiefs. So you think the Chiefs win big, huh? And this game stays under.
Yeah.
So I was just out to dinner with one of my friends, Donovan, and he is giving me shit for talking about the Bengals and how they have skated by here. on these whistles and these play calls, right? And he's right to an extent. I'm making excuses because I bet on the other end of these games both weeks. But the results still hold true. They have skated by here. They barely beat the Raiders. They barely beat the Titans. You can't convince me that they're in the same league as the Chiefs after what I just saw in that Mahomes-Allen fest on Sunday night. I think 7's the right number. I think the Chiefs cover it. I don't know that I'm going to bet it at 7, though. I think that the tease that's screaming at all of us this week is probably Chiefs -1, Niners +9.5, right?
I could definitely see that.
That probably hits, doesn't it?
You got the Rams and Niners, two divisional rivals that don't like each other. So
I mean, it seems too obvious.
Naturally, that game is going to be close, which is why the line's at 3.5, even though we
Right.
think the Rams are a significantly better team. And giving the Chiefs only a point favor when we know they should 99% of the time win this game in this kind of situation at home with everything on the line. That's a hell of a tease to play, and it's something that
it's an interesting tease.
We should pitch that to our viewers and subscribers and our followers so we can all win some money this weekend.
I'm going to tweet it out because I think that hits. And it's kind of a hedge against the Rams in a way, but I think that one hits. I don't want to mess with the game total. I think this one probably goes over 54.5 because the Chiefs definitely score, and I think the Bengals score. My favorite prop of the week is probably going to be Joe Burrow passing attempts. He's been around 36.5 the past couple of weeks. I think we see 38 in this one, 37.5. So I'm going to go over that. Just the props aren't out yet, but take note of that. If you see a 37, a 38, 37.5, take the over on that one because I don't see any scenario in this way where they stop the Chiefs. And I think Burrow's throwing just a lot of passes.
Something else to look for that's been kind of hot has been total points by field goal kickers in the playoffs.
That's interesting too.
Because you're getting a lot of lines right now at like 6.5 for kickers.
7's usually the mark, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and Gold's been clearing it. McPherson's been clearing it. Bucker can clear it with 7 touchdowns from Mahomes, no problem.
Yeah.
So that's also another prop that we should all be considering this week because knowing McVay being the conservative guy he is in the second half, you could be seeing a field goal fest, at least in the Rams Niners for sure. And I don't know if the Bengals are going to be able to punch it in too often. So another good bet would be trusting McPherson to get you some points. So
the downfall on that though is if they miss one kick, they probably lose it, right? But you're saying these 4 kickers are probably good enough to get there.
Well, not to jinx anybody, but Gould's never missed in the playoffs. McPherson hasn't missed in the playoffs.
Well, I just watched Matt Gay come up 10 yards short on a 47-yard field goal to ice the game in Tampa Bay the other week. That's crazy. I haven't seen a short field goal in years. Did you see that?
I actually missed that. No.
So it was from 47. He was probably 3 yards short of the crossbar. It was dead on center, but he was short. That's unusual.
Was it tipped at the line or anything?
No. Nope. Just came up short. Super weird.
Yeah. I do that with my wedges sometimes. Just chunk it or slice it.
Sounds familiar to a lot of our golf game, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. Speaking of our golf games, I swept you last week in this playoff draft. 8-0 for me. I won every spread and every total. That's almost impossible that would happen. So I'm up 14-7 in the total playoff draft here. We've only got 3 games left. So we're going to make the Super Bowl worth a little bit more so you can try to catch up, but you still got to win. You got to beat me this week if you're going to catch up. So for a reminder,
I'm playing for a sweep this week.
You might need one. A reminder for everybody out there, we're picking the total and the spread of each game over the course of the playoffs. I'm up 14-7. Burke, since you're down, I'm going to let you go first. And then since there's only 2 games, I'm going to sandwich the middle this week. You all right with that? 1-2-1?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, let's do that. So I'm going to give you first pick. We got Cincinnati +7, Niners +3.5, and the totals in the games is 54.5 in the Kansas City game and 46.5 in the Rams game. So you go first.
Give me a Chiefs -7.
All right, so Burke's on Kansas City. I like that pick. I'm on Cincinnati. I don't like that pick, but I'll take it. So then I'm going to pick 2. I have to take the Rams -3.5. So that's going to give you the Niners +3.5.
Yep.
And then which total do I like more? Man, this is tough. I am going to go over on the Chiefs-Bengals game.
Nice, because I like the under in that game.
All right, well, there you go. You got it. So what are you picking on the Niners Rams? 46.5.
46 and a half. I'll take the over.
Okay, so he's going over. I'm going under.
I do like that 27-20 score for the Rams.
That's not a bad pick. Yeah, so he goes over. All right, so Burke, you're going to need at least 3 of these probably to have a chance. That would be you're probably going to need all 4.
unless we make the Super Bowl like 8 times worth.
I'll give you a shot in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I'll give you a shot either way, but you need at least 3. You're probably going to need all 4 to catch up to me. So that'll be fun. But let's talk about some of our playoff strategies just to finish up today that we've been touting all playoffs. The 3 rules that we've had: number 1, do not bet on bad quarterbacks; number 2, home field matters; and number 3, no dogs unless you think they can win outright. Do not bet on bad quarterbacks. Rule number 1. In our agenda, all I have is Tannehill, apparently, because apparently he's a bad quarterback. And if I knew that before this game, I wouldn't have bet on them. But he was the worst quarterback this week, right?
Yeah, 3 pick. Well, I mean, yeah, by far he was the worst. You can't throw 3 interceptions and expect to win the game. Just unacceptable, especially at home.
And they should have won that game. They should have won that game. They had plenty of opportunities to put it away, and they didn't because Tannehill was the worst quarterback. He threw a pick on the first play of the game. He threw a pick on his first pass of the second half.
Threw a pick on his last pass of the game.
And he threw a pick on his last pick. So he bookended the game with interceptions, and coming out of the half, he threw an interception. Probably any one of those doesn't go for an interception, the Titans win the game, right? Even if he throws 2, they probably win that game, right?
Agreed.
So this strategy holds true. There's no bad quarterbacks left. Jimmy's probably the worst. Joe Burrow is the least experienced. Stafford, I would go Mahomes, Stafford, and then maybe Burrow and Jimmy tied, just because Jimmy's been to a Super Bowl and Burrow hasn't had a lot of experience, but Jimmy kind of sucks, right?
Burrow's 2-0 in the playoffs. You can't argue with wins.
Well, he's 2-0, sure. And so is Stafford, though, right? Stafford's 2-0 this year, too, with his new team.
Yeah, but Stafford's been there with the Lions, and he's lost before.
Now, the Lions don't really. I don't know if that team is indicative of him. But so who's the worst quarterback this week? It's not Stafford, right? It's Burrow or it's Jimmy.
I'd probably take Burrow out. I think Jimmy's just a tad better just because he's had the experience. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's been
I think
in
the
this
team's
moment
better.
Before.
I think the Niners team is better, and I think the Chiefs team is better than anybody in the field. So I'm going to say
I think the Niners out of the dogs have a better chance to win outright than the Bengals do, which is why I'm putting Jimmy G ahead of Burrow in this situation.
All right, so we're going to go Mahomes as a clear number 1, head and shoulders above, Stafford, Jimmy G, and then Burrow probably, right? So we're going to bet against Burrow this week. Okay.
Yep.
Home field matters. Last week it didn't, but we kind of anticipated that the script would flip. Okay. Last week on the pod, we offered over under 2 dogs that would win outright. I said over. I thought at least 3 of them would win. It was right. 3 of them did win. I thought it would be the Bills and not the Bengals. You said under. Our guest last week, Larry, he pushed.
I pushed it 2. So.
Oh, Larry pushed. Did you push 2? Okay, so 2.
I pushed it 2, yeah.
So I was the only one who went over, but we thought at least 2 dogs would win. And they were all road dogs this week. So the Rams won in Tampa. The Niners won in Green Bay. The Bengals won in Tennessee. And the Bills could have won in Kansas City. Won. So we anticipated that. Do we think home field matters this week? See, I think both home teams win.
I do too. So I obviously that means
I think it matters.
It does matter, but I think Kansas City's matters a little bit more than LA.
Yeah, probably. That's probably true. And the line's reflective of that. But we think both home teams win this week. And then our third rule, no dogs unless you think they can win the game outright. I mean, 3 dogs did win outright, and the Bills certainly almost did win outright, right? So that holds true. If the dog can't win the game, you don't bet on them, right?
Right. And I think the only dog that has the potential to do it is the Niners out of these 2 situations. I don't see just the Bengals. It's too soon for them. They're not. I mean, if they get to the Super Bowl, it would be one hell of a story. Just nobody saw it coming. Nobody at all.
Yeah.
Which would be absolutely incredible. But
I agree.
I don't see it this year, unfortunately.
I don't see it.
The road ends in Kansas
City. I see Mahomes getting back there. The Niners do have a shot. If you're going to take them, sprinkle a little bit on the money line too. But don't go against me, man. Bet on the Rams this week. Let's go. Get the Rams in there. Get Cam Akers the Super Bowl MVP. Let's have Chalk Talk making some money. we betting on either dog this week. Neither of us are on the Bengals, right? We're both on the Chiefs.
Yep.
I'm betting on the Rams. You taking the Niners because of the hook in that game?
I may take the Niners on the tees. That'd be the only
9.5.
Yeah, the 9.5, 3.5.
I think the 9.5 is a good call.
I'm gonna have to wait. I really
the 3.5 is probably like a enjoy it kind of game, right? I don't know that I would take that 3.5 either way.
Right. I would. I don't know. I just kind of want to enjoy that game. Obviously, I'm still heartbroken that Green Bay's not playing this week. Sure. But I'll be pulling for the Rams.
All right, man. Yeah, sounds good. So hey, we got to wrap up tonight, but we can't go without talking about our Twitter picks. One of us is on fire, and the other one of us is like burning, except in the other
I wouldn't
way,
say
like
burning.
a house fire.
It's staying afloat. I can't get any momentum built on college basketball right now. It's the parity is incredible, and you just don't, with COVID and just a slew of other things. Like these games have been ultra competitive, and if you guys haven't been tuning into college basketball this year, do yourself a treat and start watching some of these games. They've been fantastic so far, and there's not one dominant team in the country right now. Not like last year where you had Gonzaga and Baylor as your two top teams, like head and shoulders above everybody else. This year, I think there have been 5 or 6 different got teams ranked number 1 so far. And it's going to set up for an exciting finish. And hopefully I can start getting on the right side of these bets and getting you guys some money. But
yeah, let's go.
And I do have 3 picks going on right now. I don't know how they're doing. I haven't looked at my phone.
We'll have to check on them after the app. I got some NBA picks out there too.
Yeah, just you toot your horn a little bit right now because you are in fuego, my friend.
Yeah, so I'm near 80% on my NBA picks year to date, which again is just insane. And again, not to toot our own horn, but Chalk Talk is the only free podcast out there that I know of that's given you 80% winners without charging you a thing. You can literally go on our Twitter and become richer just by looking at the free website, twitter.com account Chalk Talk, and picking our NBA picks. So we're near 80%. And not only that, we haven't had a losing night yet on the NBA. Every night has been profitable. At a minimum, one game above 500, which nets you, a quarter of a unit. So no matter what, if you pick just one night to follow us on NBA, you've made money. Not a single losing night. And I think that's impressive. That's something we can hang our hat on. We were great during the NFL season. We've been great in the NBA season. Burke is going to be great in the college basketball season. I know it. So keep following us out there for picks. So this has been super fun, man. I'm glad that we got some listeners on YouTube. This was awesome. We're going to have to stream these live more often.
Yeah, I've been following along on the feed on the YouTube account. There's definitely been some solid conversation going on. I don't know how gambling productive it is reviewing some of these comments. I see some references to a drinking game being developed with the way we're talking and what we're explaining.
Oh, great.
Just a bunch of other randomness.
I'm gonna have to check out the comments after we leave today, but we're gonna try to do this more often because this is fun to engage you guys. And maybe next time, if we get a couple listeners, we can do like a live, send a question in or something and we can answer it that way. That would be fun, I think. And as always, this will be on Spotify by tomorrow. So you guys can tune in that way if you missed the live episode. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hope you guys learned something. Stay tuned into our Twitter for our formal divisional round picks and our NBA and college basketball picks every night. Thank you guys for listening. We appreciate it. This is going pretty well, man. We're getting some traction here. I think we're going to be, doing big things this year in 2022. Hoping to have some guests on in the next couple of weeks. This is it, man. This is conference championship week. And then we got 2 weeks until the Super Bowl. I'm moving. We're going to be doing some big things in the next couple of weeks. We're going to hopefully be watching the Super Bowl together. Maybe we do something big for that. We're going to have a prop party. We're going to give out a ton of picks for the Super Bowl. So definitely stay tuned the next couple of weeks.
Maybe we do a live stream of the game.
I would love that. Maybe we do something live during the game.
Interesting.
Maybe we can have a few more or a few less of these drinks during the Super Bowl during our live episode.
Is that your only one that you've been sipping on the entire episode, or have you had a chance to refill that?
Well, I had a little. I went out to dinner before this, so I don't want to overindulge myself.
And one last thing before we sign off. Half of our Chalk Talk crew, one of us is celebrating a birthday tomorrow. a big 3-0, and I want to give an early congratulations to my partner in crime here, Mr. Ken Doolittle, for
I am.
well wishes for 30th birthday.
I am, sir, and thank you very much. And hopefully, I can join you in the realm of 30, and hopefully my age only brings me some more betting wisdom and doesn't age me out of my good touch with the NBA and my grip on the sporting world. So hopefully I grow wiser in my old age. You've been in 30 for a couple months now, so hopefully the view up there is just as nice for me as well. But
It hurts. It hurts a little more getting up in the morning, but other than that, it's been great.
Well, I can't wait, man. Thank you. I appreciate the wishes. Hopefully we'll see you soon. We'll have to get together sometime soon. We'll do one of these in person. Until then, I am Ken. That is Mike Burke. We will see you next time. Let's go win some money, my friends.
Let's do it. I think that's it.
Did you cut us on YouTube?